the beginning, I thought, how much can we really get done, right, in these sessions? But it is extraordinary once we started opening up to each other, and I've been able to work through some of my, my own fears about having a business, about stepping into this new role in my life. And I've been able to bring that into these sessions and, have that work on that, but then also do the same for other people and help ask questions that really give them insights into what's going on for them. And it's been this very sacred space.
We often stay with the status quo because it's safe. It's easy not to sort of, push yourself out there. But, I think when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you become courageous, because that's when you stand in your truth, I guess. So I think that's probably been where you definitely pivot and you sort of say, well, actually, what's important to me?
And just putting a mindful twist on how you're thinking, how you're approaching life, any limiting beliefs, some of the shadow aspects, whether that's fear or people pleasing or perfectionism. I think when you start talking about some of those shadow aspects, they start to show up in your life more, and you see them a bit more and you recognize them. And one of the powerful techniques that we learned in our coaching sessions was about maybe taking some of those shadow aspects.
Are you feeling stuck in life, wondering if there's more you could be achieving or experiencing? Do you ever find yourself grappling with self-doubt or facing obstacles that seem insurmountable? Well, you're not alone. After 8 years of incredible journeys and profound insights on this podcast, we decided to do something different, something we have never done before. We're bringing you the voices and stories of our own students. In this special episode, you'll hear firsthand accounts from those who have faced fear, conquered self-doubt, and embraced their true potential. These are real stories of transformation and growth shared by the courageous individuals who have embarked on a journey with us at Rise and Thrive Academy. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by the radical shifts and profound insights that our students have experienced. This isn't just another episode. It's a peek into the magic that happens when people are empowered to live their best lives. So let's dive in and hear their incredible stories. So, good morning, a good evening, or good afternoon, depending on which side of the world you are sitting on at this very moment. We have got something very special for you, something very different, something we have never, ever done on the show before. And we've been doing this for, I think, 8 years. So this is completely new for us, but I know it's going to be lots of fun. So let me talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. So just to give you a little bit of insight. So as you know, we have the positive psychology coaching program with the Rise and Thrive Academy. And of course, I sit there, and for me, I get to witness on a weekly basis the miracles that come out of these mentoring sessions. I have seen some of our coaches, because I call them coaches, they're students, but I've seen our coaches overcome fear, overcome self-doubt, conquer imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, and even dance with their inner critic, something that holds all of us back. I have seen some of our students build their self-confidence and self-worth to the point where they've, put themselves in situations or put themselves forward in roles that they never, ever thought that they would be capable of doing for themselves. I have seen some of our students find the courage to leave their roles, their jobs, their relationships, or any situation that was no longer serving them. And what I see is once our students complete the program, is they feel comfortable to stand in their truth and be their authentic self and have those courageous conversations that they have been avoiding for years. These are just some of the things I witness on a weekly basis, and I'm absolute in awe and feel awesome to be part of this. So today I have invited some of our courageous students who are still in the program, almost finishing, to the podcast to share their stories. So I would like to introduce you to them individually, and they'll tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we'll start really unpacking what's been going on in their lives. So first I'd like to introduce Marla. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I'm thrilled to be here. And before I joined your coaching program, this was in August of last year, I had just left my job as a lawyer in the corporate world. I'd been there for 14 years, and I had embarked on my own business of doing career coaching with astrology and human design. So helping unhappy professionals find the kind of work that lights them up. But I was thinking, how can I really scale this? Because it really takes a lot of work to be looking at people's charts. And you talked about how you incorporate astrology tools into your coaching, and you come from a corporate background and your clients are corporate clients. I thought, this is amazing. And your passion for it, when I listened to that, I knew immediately. I thought, this is what I want to do for the next year, because it is a commitment, and it just felt right. I thought, there's a reason that I listened to this just, a couple of months after I made this big life change. And so that's about me.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story and great introduction. Lorena, over to you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Catherine. Look, I'm a non-for-profit senior leader. I've been in the corporate world for a long time, many different organizations, both here and abroad. And I sort of started in leadership in my 20s. So, I've been on a journey for a long time, but it's true what Marla said. It is a commitment, but it's, I think when I first went into it, it was about just being a better leader and just trying and be a better coach in life. So that's sort of what did that. But also too, I obviously knew about you, Catherine. We've worked together before, and I've always been transformed. And I think that's what I was looking for, is this transformational journey. And I'm certainly on it, and really excited about what we're doing.
Thank you, Lorena, for the introduction. And over to you, Lora. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I began my career in business management and worked in the corporate tech industry in marketing and management for about 10 years. Then I decided to make a shift and moved into education, and have been in that world for the last almost 30 years. Started off first as a secondary teacher, then moved into being a principal and then a superintendent. And for the past 8 years, I've been a senior leadership role in human resources. So kind of coming back full circle, starting corporate education and now corporate education, which blends the two together, which is lovely. I've always had a deep interest in leadership and personal growth, and looking for opportunities to grow in that space, and also was looking to move on from my current employment and look for other opportunities, and coaching was kind of calling out to me, as was your course, and it all just landed beautifully together, and that's how I'm here today.
Great. Thank you so very much. So I think it's really important for us to start with the whole coaching program. It is really important for us. We are really proud and pride ourselves on the fact that we are ICF accredited, which is International Coaching Federation Level 2. And there's only a couple of us in the world that actually specialize in positive psychology. So I wanted to get into what exactly do you experience, because a lot of people speak to me about, well, tell me a little bit about the program. And of course you can see the program, there's 7 modules that's kind of mapped out over the 12 months. Some people do finish it a little bit earlier, but it's the juicy things that happen inside the program that people do not get insight into. And this is why I wanted to bring you on and speak about some of the things that you have experienced. So let's go deep. Let's start there. So I'm going to start off with you, Marla. How about thinking about what has been one of the biggest shifts or transformations that you have experienced in this program?
Well, I've definitely learned how to go very deep in the sessions that we have. It's a cohort of 3 of us with you, and we have 10 of those sessions, maybe once every maybe 6 weeks or so. And at the beginning, I thought, how much can we really get done, right, in these sessions? But it is extraordinary once we started opening up to each other, and I've been able to work through some of my, my own fears about having a business, about stepping into this new role in my life. And I've been able to bring that into these sessions and, have that work on that, but then also do the same for other people and help ask questions that really give them insights into what's going on for them. And it's been this very sacred space. And, I happen to really love astrology and human design sessions too. And it has that same sense of just going really deep and sort of the space that's apart from time. Like the time just sort of stops and we're there. And that has been really one of my favorite experiences. It's been amazing.
And that's why I always say it's where the magic happens. They're my favorite moments. And so for those that don't know, the tools that we use is called astro coaching, and it is very much psychology and astrology based, blended together. And we do use these tools during our sessions and really unpack them. So we do go deep. And I have even had quite a few coaches and psychologists that actually do this program, and they've said, oh, wow, I didn't realize how deep you go. We go in, absolutely. Because when you think about it, coaching is an inside job, right? And yet everyone enters the room, we all experience, we enter the room with surface stuff, right? It's not until we move all the surface stuff and really go into the individual that you can see that there's some things that people have been hanging on for a very long time that actually don't even realize they're still hanging on to it, but wondering why they're repeating these patterns over and over again. And why is it that I can't make those changes? Why is it that I'm attracting the same people in my life, the same relationship, the same situations in work or in my career? And it's not till we go deep and then they have that insight and they can see or connect with the very thing that it's stopping them or getting in their way of doing the very thing that they want to do, which is just so magical. So thank you. If you had to pick one insight, the biggest insight for you, Marla, what was that one thing that really stood out for you?
I think how very hard I can be on myself. And even I've been thinking about this even because we recently had a session, and after we have the session, you'll ask us, each of us, and what our experience was like. And I think I always start with the negative, with what I didn't like about what I did. And I think that's really not, that's not helpful. And so I'm working through things even at that stage. And so just realizing that I can be really negative. It's something that I've been working on. And the tools that you've given us have really helped me with that.
Yeah, thank you. And it's normal. We all have that negative bias. It actually, and that's the other thing too that we do is we normalize things. It's not, we always say there's no good, there's no bad, there's no wrong, there's no right. It just is. It's the moment we label it that we then have that experience and then project it into our environment. And therefore we are experiencing it, right? Over and over again. And I always talk about the moment that we shift. We can't change others. We can't change people. We can't change the environment, but we can change the way that we see something, the way that we think and feel about something, and therefore we'll project into our field and create our own reality, because we are projecting 100% of the time, aren't we? We know that after doing our sessions. Okay, I'm going to go over to you, Lorena. What has been a pivotal moment for you, or a breakthrough that you have experienced?
I think honestly, it's understanding the power of the mind, and how we go into situations and we have thoughts about these situations that aren't always reality. We create our own narrative around what's happening, and we have emotions based on things that aren't necessarily real. And I think the biggest thing that I've understood is that if I can take a minute and stand outside it and look objectively at something, then all of a sudden, you know, your mindset completely changes, and you can really make decisions based on truth, not what you think is true. And how much, you know, I wasn't even aware of how much internally I internalized things, which wasn't a positive thing, you know. And I think when you think about confidence, you know, it really comes from the mind. I mean, obviously, if you're really confident about something, you know, you can naturally just, you know, talk about it and be really super confident. It's when you go into situations where it's unknown or you're unsure, that all of a sudden, you know, you have all these different ideas about what's going to happen, and you know, that's when your confidence is low. But just that switch in your mind can just change the whole situation so dramatically. So I think that was the unconscious thinking that you're not even aware of, that you have thoughts that, you know, may have been with you all your life, and that, you know, whether you're naturally critical of yourself or whether you go into this self-doubt, which is me, you know, self-doubt being probably the first thing that I do, rather than, you know, I'll have 100 reasons why I can't do something as you know, differently to the one reason why I could do it. And if I just focused on that, you know, I will achieve it, or I will do it. So that was the biggest thing, is the mind, and just how I think we always know it's powerful, but the fact that you can actually control with the right tools, you can actually control the direction you want to take. And I think that was sort of that's been amazing, and it's certainly changed the way I look at everything, you know. And even to the point that we talked a lot about values and what's important for me. And I think often I would maybe put other people, or just even because it's the status quo and this is how we should follow, you know, rather than standing up and going, actually, this isn't right, this is not right. And I think having the confidence to be able to do that and go, well, these are my values, these are important to me, and therefore I'm going to stand up for me. And I think, you know, just looking back at life and looking now, gee, if I knew now what I knew then, I may have done things very, very differently. So it's been powerful, really powerful.
So you're talking about having those courageous conversations, being aware about when your values are being compromised. And sometimes what we do, we actually hold back, don't we? We hold back because we want to keep the peace. We don't want to upset the other person, or we, you know, we rather keep ourselves small rather than really standing in our truth and say, hey, this is how I feel. And Lorena, you happy to share like the fact that you're able to stand in your truth? I mean, we make mountains out of is it mountain of molehill?
Molehill, yes.
Yeah. And you know, so we make it so much worse in our mind. But when we actually and this is part of the thing too, it's like a lot of the times we hold back from saying the very thing that we want to say is because we feel like we need to tell it. But what we have learned in this program is you can turn it into a question. So anything that you want to say, you turn it into a really thought-provoking question, so that it gives you the courage to come in and have that conversation. And the responses aren't ever as bad as what you imagine. Is that right, Lorena?
100%. I think, you know, we often stay with the status quo because it's safe. You know, it's easy not to sort of, you know, push yourself out there. But you know, I think when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you become courageous, because that's when you stand in your truth, I guess. So I think that's probably been where you definitely pivot, and you sort of say, well, actually, what's important to me? You know, I think often you know, we worry about everybody else, and we make sure they're okay, but we don't always, you know, look at what are we doing for ourselves. And you know, we often, well, certainly me, you know, I'll hold myself back, I won't put myself forward, and it's just getting out of that comfort zone. And you know what, it's okay to be courageous. And you know what, if you don't get there the first time, you'll learn so much from that failure. I think you've got to be prepared to fail if you're going to learn. So I think you've got to be prepared to just give it a go, and you will learn so much from it, and then you'll come back stronger the next time. So I think there's real strength in just being courageous and believing in yourself. And I think that's about your mind. It's about how you think, and you can change your thinking, and you can change it all the time. You know, we think all the time, but you know, we can we can just change the narrative so much if we just stop and just look at things, situations objectively and from different angles. We'll make different decisions. And it's been happening for me since I sort of began the program. And I think the other thing to mention is the relationships you build with the people that you do cohorts with. They're quite powerful too, because you not only learn about yourself, but you learn about other people. And everyone's going through something. Everyone's got their own story. And it's been a real privilege to, and it's really safe. It's a safe environment, but it's a real privilege to think that you might be helping someone else going through what they're going through. I think it's been amazing, but equally too, those powerful questions that you learn, that you can actually help someone work through it themselves, because we have the answers. That was the other real truth that came out, that no one can tell us what to do or how to do it. We know, we just need to ask the right questions.
Yeah, I love that. It's true. We all have all the answers we have within ourselves. And I love the fact that you really learn how to back yourself. And that's what you were saying. And the other thing too, I think it's really important, is that we understand that there is no such thing as failure. Look at failure as feedback. See, and then the moment, because failure has such a negative connotation. And when we move into it, go, oh, I'm too scared to make a mistake, or I don't want to fail, that in itself stops us doing the very thing that we want to do. But if we come into a situation with more of a playful attitude and give it a go, and if I do make a mistake, what did I learn from it, and what will I do differently next time? So I love the fact that we don't look at failure as failure, but more as feedback. So Lorena, thank you so very much. I'm going to go over to you, Lora. What has been some of your biggest transformations or insights or aha moments in your process?
Yes, and I would agree with both Marla and Lorena so far. So many of the things that they said resonated with me, but as well the thoughts driving the behaviors. That has really stuck with me through the program and the process. Of course, I thought we would be learning about how to coach others. What I wasn't as aware of embarking in the program was how much coaching that was afforded to us, and how much we would learn about ourselves along the way, including a lot of our limiting beliefs, and how we have all the answers with inside of us. I was very surprised how the coach just asked very thoughtful, listened intently questions, and then everything sort of comes out from within the person. And so that to me was very, very powerful. And the internal versus external, where you start to talk about things and just on the surface. And then as you get digging deeper, it's kind of like peeling the layers of the onion, and things kind of come out to the surface. And I found that very magical. And I was also very surprised how much physically people hold their thoughts patterns. And as people were unearthing their thoughts, or myself, you could actually see the shifts in their body, whether it was a different kind of a softer language, breathing better, huge smiles on people's faces. And that was really, really interesting to see how much we carry around with us of our thought patterns, some of which are limiting and aren't even real, but we've created patterns. And then when you let go of that, it really changes your body. And it does take sometimes a few days to integrate. I found as well, like you'd let go of something and it felt great in the minute, but you almost have to get used to yourself and how you feel now without sort of carrying that weight or baggage with you. And the community is incredible, and the tools that you get along the way has been fantastic. So seeing those connections was really a surprise for me, and I've grown very much personally from that.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you even use baggage. We all carry baggage, right? And a lot of the times in our coaching sessions, about what do we need to let go of, which does bring a sense of lightness. Like everyone, I can see the shifts even physically, like people change their hairstyle, or I'm looking at you, change their hairstyle. They start looking different. They start dressing different. that you can see that it's influenced them, not just internally, but then that reflection as they're letting go of their baggage or letting go of stuff they've carried for a long time or wounds they've carried for a long time. It's amazing how it's like, sometimes I've even asked my students, have you had a facelift or something? Like, you look completely different. Like, what's been going on in your life? So you can see the shift. Absolutely. So I'd love to really, yes.
Sorry, I was just going to mention one of the things that I worked on in one of our masterclass sessions. It isn't really an easy task for me for public speaking, to speak in front of others. That's not necessarily something that comes easily or that I particularly enjoy. And when I was working with the coach who was coaching me, he really helped me look at things a little differently. And I just wanted to say now I'm on my first podcast, so it works.
Amazing. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And I'd love to maybe, Lora, unpack a little bit about, so since you've done the program, how has it influenced you professionally and personally?
I would say personally, I've been able to reframe a lot of my thought patterns. Like, I do find that you can coach yourself. So once you've gone through some of the exercises and strategies, when you find yourself in a situation where you're challenged or with a roadblock, you can kind of lean on some of the experiences you've had and try to coach yourself. So that has been fantastic. The cognitive behavior therapy module in particular, I think it was module 4, was so impactful to reframe and look at things in a different way. So I found that very, very helpful personally. And then I would say professionally, the biggest shift for me has been in that power of listening. Probably, I don't know if Lorena can relate, and as well as Marla, but sometimes you're in those roles where you're constantly providing solutions and problem solving for people, and they come through your door and you're there to help them. And just changing things to a listening stance, or even asking them, well, what would you do in my position? Or getting into the who, what, where, when, why questions so that you can dig a little deeper. Professionally, I found that has been really, really helpful in my practice.
Amazing, amazing. I'm now going to go over to you, Marla. I'd love to hear what have been some of the mindset changes or even behavior towards how you approach life now since you've done this program.
Well, I love that Lora mentioned the cognitive behavioral therapy module, because that was a very powerful module. I remember when it first came out, and I just kept going through it because I was amazed at how fascinating it was. And it really helped me understand some of my thinking, things like catastrophic thinking, ruminating on things and figuring out, okay, well then if I'm, those are sort of defaults for me. So how can I reframe that? And that was huge. And so I've taken that into, being a business owner is tough. I mean, there are a lot of ups and downs. You don't have control over so many things. There's a lot about being visible as well, which I agree with Lora. I mean, it's not the most natural thing for me either to put myself out there. I was very used to being behind the scenes as a lawyer, and now that I have to be out here. And so it's helped me so much to, when I'm feeling doubt or when I'm feeling like less than, then I can reframe that. And actually one of the things that was so powerful for me was that I also did sign up to be coached by one of the coaches in the program who was going for her ICF certification. I had 3 sessions with her, and it was amazing to see. First of all, I was so impressed with her. I thought, this is awesome that I get to see somebody who's further along in the path and who's an excellent coach. And then we got to work through so many of these issues for me as a business owner. And so that was really amazing. I love that. And I really recommend that to anybody else in the program who is interested in doing that, because those 3 sessions were amazing. So, and then in my personal life, when there was this one time when my boyfriend was experiencing some anxiety about something, and I asked him for permission, to be coached. And I went through a lot of the definitely going inward and asking him about where he was feeling the anxiety in his body and all of this more somatic work, which does not come naturally to me, honestly. And it really helped him. It was so cool. I was really excited about that. So
I
it's
love
very
that.
useful for your personal life.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that you use on yourself, you use on others, like family. I've heard people say, oh my God, as a mother, it's transformed my whole life. My kids, I've been able to influence my kids now. They listen to me, which, I think it's amazing because you can actually use these techniques on other people as well. And I love the fact that you spoke about your experience with the coaching. So that's what we do at the academy as well, right? So as you're going through the program, you do need to, by the end of the program, hand in 2 recordings. And so we go back into the community. So you get to, not only do you experience coaching within your groups, your mentoring groups, but there's also an opportunity for you to experience coaching outside of your groups to help the other coaches get their 2 recordings. So I love the fact that you brought that up, Marla. So thank you very much. I'm going to go over to you, Lorena, and ask you, what are some of the changes that you've experienced, whether it's mindset or behavior or how you approach your life, whether it's personal or professional?
I think just a bit to Laura, what you were saying is that, in the corporate world, we're all about finding solutions, so someone comes to you with a problem, you find the solution, that's what we do. And we do it quickly and efficiently because it's all about getting it done. And I think the biggest thing that I have done is asked just one question: what do you think? And just listened, and wow, I can't believe that something as simple as that, because people know the answers 9 times out of 10, but all of a sudden you empower them. They feel valued, they feel heard. And they sort of, well, you're asking me, well, yes, I'm asking you, what do you think? What would you do? And I think that's probably been, and I'm not saying I didn't ask people or collaborate before, but I think I do it more than ever. But it's been quite profound, not only in that people have felt empowered, but equally that they have sort of grown. Like I've seen growth in them, and they've sort of thought, yeah, wow, and they've gone away and done it. So what that means is that frees me up, because all of a sudden I've got people that can make decisions for themselves, and they're not running to me for things that really they don't need to. But I don't know whether some of that becomes your ego, that you're happy for people to come to you because you're always finding solutions. I'd like to think that's not the case, but maybe it does. Maybe your ego certainly feeds into that. But I've loved watching my team really flourish, and even to the point where I had a colleague who was going on leave for 3 weeks, and she was like, oh, I don't know, I don't really think I'm going to enjoy it. 3 weeks is too long, I can't leave it. And I said, well, who's your most senior person that you could step up and, take over the role for you? And, well, I don't know, maybe this person could. I said, well, why don't you try it? Get them a car, get them this. And so she did it. And she said, it's the best thing I ever did, because I feel like I'm going on holiday. I'm not even worrying. I'm going for 3 weeks. I'm going to enjoy it. So it's crazy about just, giving people opportunity, but more about just asking those questions. And, when they come at you flustered, or, I can't deal with an individual, well, half the time it's about them, not about the person who's showing up with their issue, or not doing what they want them to do. Half the time it's to do with the way they're approaching it. So just getting them to think about, how could you approach this differently? What could you do? Or, when an event happens, what could you have done differently with that situation? I think they've just been really powerful questions. I use them all the time, but it's made me, I would say, definitely a better leader because of it. I like to think I'm a good human, but I'm definitely a better leader just by asking those really, they're not hard questions, but they're deep. They're just, what do you, just putting it back on them and asking them to find the solutions. It's been quite transformational.
And have you noticed that people are coming up to you and saying, Lorena, what's different about you? You've changed, or you're starting to seeing that there's been a shift within because you were talking about mindset before, obviously, yep. And so your behavior is shifting. So are you seeing people coming to you, or opportunities coming to you saying, hey, there's this shift in you?
Well, I told people I was doing this coaching, because, there are times when You know, I might have to be in a meeting, but I'm like, I need to do this because I'm prioritizing this because this is for me. Yeah. So I've told them, but, you know, often we'll be, you know, we'll all be together, you know, in a meeting, and I'll come out with a question. They go, oh, here she goes again. You know, here's the coach, you know. So it's quite funny. You know, we have a bit of a joke about it, but there are people that say, I really love it. I love the insight that you're bringing to different situations, certainly with close colleagues that I consider really good friends. You know, sometimes they'll actually say, oh, can I ask you this? You know, they're actually coming to me more for just, I don't know, conversation, I suppose. And they're very willing to open up to me, which I think I've always had that natural thing where people come to me, but I think it's very different now. So people would come and sort of unload because they felt they could tell me everything and just unload, because I am, you know, I am that vault, I'm that safe place. But I think now it's very different how we show up together, but quite empowering for both me and them. So I'm learning so much more about me and how to be better, but equally too, they're going away with a different approach to things. So yeah, it's been very transformational just in the way that I communicate, and that active listening. You know, that has been, you know, we all like to think that we listen, but the truth is, do we really listen? And I think I was definitely that person who someone was talking at me and I'm already thinking about what I need to say, or how I need to fix it, or, you know, I've already decided, whereas actually I haven't really listened to what they're saying. And by asking those questions, number one, they know I'm listening, but number two, it just, you know, giving people space. I think I've never been good at that. People need time sometimes to just think and say what they really feel. And often I didn't give them that opportunity just to be in the moment and really think about what they want to say. And I think that active listening too has been, again, a tool that we've learned, and it has to be learned, because, you know, you need to understand the power of that, of just really just being in the moment, sitting with someone and just letting them be, you know. And I think that equally too has been really powerful.
It is, and it is important, because I think that with all the research that I've looked into, the number one reason most people leave organizations, leave relationships, leave home, leave town, whatever that may be, is because they don't feel valued. And so the moment that we allow someone to be seen, heard, and valued, it makes them feel special, right? It makes them feel connected. And I even liked, I was actually going back to the word vulnerability when you talked about vulnerability. I know for me, I used to look at vulnerability as a sign of weakness, whereas now I see vulnerability is a must if you want to connect with others. It's actually a sign of strength. The moment you stand in your truth and you say, I can't do this alone, I need your help, it's like, oh, she's not a robot, she's not a this, or she's not a that. And it's amazing how more collaborative people become when you're vulnerable. It's now I look at that as a superpower. The more vulnerable that we can be, the better for the collective. That's how I see it. And I also love the fact that you talked about listening. Absolutely. The majority of the times where we're actually thinking ahead of time, and we've seen this in our mentoring sessions where we're thinking about the next question, but to actually just to be with what's in the room and allow the coachee to allow themselves to express themselves. And absolutely, there's tears, we laugh, we cry. I think it's such a beautiful group in the mentoring session. That's why I always say it's where all the magic happens. It's really beautiful. I'm going to go over to you, Lora, now, because you were talking about some of the changes. When you're talking about, you know, shifting mindset, behavior, how have you approached life in a different way?
That's a good question. I think just slowing down, like you said, creating more space to think, both for myself and for others, and just putting a mindful twist on how you're thinking, how you're approaching life, any limiting beliefs, some of the shadow aspects, whether that's fear or people pleasing or perfectionism. I think when you start talking about some of those shadow aspects, they start to show up in your life more, and you see them a bit more and you recognize them. And one of the powerful techniques that we learned in our coaching sessions was about maybe taking some of those shadow aspects, be it fear, people pleasing, and calling it out as a character or giving it a name. So you might have perfectionism, and your perfectionism has a particular name, and you're able to sort of see that outside of yourself, and then look at who you are, and then that you're actually carrying the perfectionism. Perhaps you're not the perfectionist. And those have been really powerful tools. Another one that really stays with me is when you're in a session, and whether it's somebody you're coaching or yourself, and as you said, we laugh, we cry, and if you're having a tearful moment, the question of what are those tears saying to you? So it's taking something inanimate and giving it a voice. And I found those two strategies very, very powerful. And I think we all know we have those shadow aspects to ourselves. But I think what the coaching program has taught me is through the vulnerability and through getting to those shadow parts, it's hard to get there, but once you get there, it's very easy to change the thought pattern, and it can be changed in an instant. And these are things you may have been carrying your whole life, your whole adult life since childhood. And those things have been very powerful and have absolutely made a difference in my day-to-day life.
I love the fact you talked about the shadow aspects. We do. We actually look at how do we work with them, whether, it's whether it's the inner critic, the saboteur, whatever, the perfectionism, and understand that they are there. They serve a purpose, right? They have a purpose. They're there to serve us. They're there to protect us, and there is a benefit. And so once we understand why they are there, and sometimes they are learnt behaviors. They're not who we are, and that's one thing that we talk about all the time. These are all learnt behaviors. They're not who we are. And so when you can start separating yourself, and this is where the true transformation takes place. And I think that when you create a little bit of space and work with these psychological archetypes, it's easy to see when they come up, when they come forward. I think everyone knows mine is Roger, my psychological archetype, and I'm really clear about when Roger comes up and understand why Roger comes up. And so it absolutely does make me change the way that I approach a conversation, or how I go about my day-to-day way of being. So absolutely. So I love the fact that you spoke about that. And I think it's really important thing is the magic that I see on a weekly basis is true, that some of these individuals that are going through the program have been carrying stuff for their whole entire life. And it's not until they go back to, you don't even have to know why, because in coaching, we can go back to grab the resource and come back and be in the present moment. But the insights of the epiphanies that they realize, oh my gosh, I've been carrying this since I was 2, since I was 4, since I was 6, and being able to make that connection and be able to transform in the present moment, absolutely then transform how they then future pace and what they create for themselves. It's absolutely beautiful to watch. And that's why I wanted to get you ladies on the show. I am going to go back to you, Marla, now to see what was maybe your favorite technique and how have you played it, whether it's life. I mean, you shared already with your partner. What about work or with life? Any specific technique? You talked about CBT, I know, but is there anything specifically that you always lean into?
I think it is remembering that our thoughts impact our feelings, which then impact our behavior. That one was really helpful, because it's so true that when I'm feeling low about something and then I catch myself and I think, okay, what was I just thinking? Because that's really leading to this feeling, and it's this loop that we go in. And so that's been something that's been extremely helpful for me to catch in myself, and then also with clients to be able to make them aware of that. And so that's something that breaking that loop, that pattern, it really makes such a difference.
Beautiful. And Lorena, are there any specific techniques that really you hold really close to your heart that you like to use on a regular basis?
I can't think of. I think I switch in between depending on the
Yeah.
what I'm dealing with. But for me personally, it's when I know I'm showing up a certain way. I think it's that mindfulness. It's taking myself out of the situation, balancing myself, and trying to be really being very self-aware so I can be objective, because when my emotions are high, if I'm feeling, I'm a people would see me as an extrovert, but really I'm an introvert. So when I'm at home personally, I'm very much, I will, if we've got to go out somewhere, I will feel anxiety like just and create a situation that's my own. But once I'm there, I'm life and soul of the party. But so I have these two hats, and when I know that I'm getting myself into this place of, oh, look, I'm just not going to go, I get myself into that place. I have to step aside and just rationalize, absolutely put yourself in a calm place and just take a minute and then go, okay, what's really going on here? And I think just by doing that, I can certainly, so I think there's so many tools that we can call on, and so many that we have in those. I mean, the toolboxes are pretty amazing, but even from everything from a 360-degree feedback to just to a person just saying, what's my situation now, and where do I want to be, just little things like that, that I just think you can pull on them at any time, depending on who you're dealing with and what the situation is. But for me personally, I think it's just taking that minute to ground and rationalize that they're the ones I use for myself personally, and it's been helpful.
And you mentioned earlier on about your group, like we were talking about your group, without going into details. Are there any memorable interactions or moments that stick with you when you think about being with your group?
Look, I think what's been really profound, we've sort of, there's myself and two others, and I'm the female, and they're both young men, but they're incredible. They've got incredible brains, and I think that we have this relationship. It's sort of like we've been dancing, but we've really got to know each other very, very well, and we've allowed ourselves to be very comfortable and very open, and what that does is, it's been quite freeing. But even to watch the growth, not only of myself but of them too, has been quite amazing. For me, it allowed me to go on and try different things, and I'm going into a new role as a result of my coaching. But I think just that we all have so much stuff that we hang on to from childhood mainly, and it's just part of who we are. It's where we were born, it's the way we were brought up, and it's just they're learnt behaviors, and I think the three of us have really come to sort of, I don't know, almost T-junctions in our life to really question, well, what makes us happy, what do we want to do, and what's important for us. So I think we've all had that pivotal moment in that space personally. So forget professionally, I think personally we've all had those really pivotal moments that have been profound but amazing to watch and to be a part of. It's been honestly a real privilege to go through that with them, for sure.
Yeah, and I see them as well. I feel very, very blessed to sit and be part of what goes on, because I am also learning from everybody as well, because we all have our own stuff that we deal with on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, and a life basis. And I think having that safe space where you can open up and truly express yourself, and we call it the vault, what goes on tour stays on tour. It's just beautiful to watch and see everybody walk away from this program. There's not one person, I say this all the time, there's not one person that walks away not transformed. Every single person that does this program walks out a different human being. And that's why I started with what I started with in the show, is that I see this over and over again, which is beautiful, truly profound. So Laura, I'm going to go over to you. And I know we quite often we get a lot of questions around, well, what's the program like? And I tell them it's self-paced, the 7 modules. But from your experience, Laura, going through the program, going through the workbooks, has it been easy? Have you set time for yourself? Like, from your experience, what has been your process?
Yes. Yeah, I would say that there is the workbooks, like you mentioned, and there is a lot of content in the workbooks. They're not easy, but they're not overly challenging. They do sort of hit that sweet spot with challenging some thinking. I do find that keeping up with them regularly is helpful, because then you're as well. And but it is nice for those that have lots going on in their lives, that there is flexibility. You don't have to hand them in on a certain date. So if you want to hold off, you can. If you want to keep a pace, you can as well. So that's fantastic. The coaching groups, as we've talked about, the 3 in the coaching groups, we meet monthly to practice our coaching, and those are very very exciting, because we get to spend time with Catherine and build those relationships with our other people in our working group. Then there's question and answer sessions that are also facilitated by another person from Rise and Thrive. And that's where you can get in and ask all kinds of questions about the workbook or what you're experiencing. And you learn so much from other people, because now you're exposed to everyone in the academy and not just your working group. And then I would say, lastly, there is the master classes. So we have 3 different master classes. And what's really powerful about those is you often don't know some of the people in those classes. They come from different walks of life. And when you're put in small groups with them to practice some coaching techniques, it's incredible what you can get accomplished just in even 20 minutes trying a new technique with somebody along the way. So you get all of these different touch points to practice and really, really grow. I think sometimes a lot of us are hard on ourselves that we're not super amazing coaches right out of the gate. And I don't think we realize how much you have to listen and think and be mindful and learn the skills and tools and techniques. But if you're a little bit patient with yourself and you trust the process, I will also say the user experience will be like something you've never experienced. They are so attentive and conscious of the feedback that they're giving, and they value your time, and they know you're spending your good time on their program, and they make sure it meets your needs through constant feedbacks and surveys and all of those types of things. So it took a little bit at the beginning just to wrap your head around the different components of it, but then it all came together so beautifully. And they put it all in Zoom invites. So you just gather the invites, they pre-populate to your calendar. And the last thing I will say that just totally blew me away, that I think I'm the most excited about, is that when you're in the academy, you're in the academy for life. And I kept thinking that they're saying the wrong thing, or they don't really mean that, or do they know me? Are they sure they want me for life? Like, I'm thinking it's like, it's in, do your stuff and get out, right? But it's the community that has blown me away. And just the thought that they're willing to take you on for life. And that's a big commitment. And so as things are coming up, as the program's winding down for me, I'm on my last module and things are kind of winding down. When I see the little things going in my calendar, little classes and workshops and new techniques and new ways to connect with others beyond the program, I just think I don't think there's anywhere else that you would get that sort of offer and invitation. So those are all the pieces that have made it so wonderful for me personally.
Oh, thank you for sharing. And it's so true. Currently we've got 60 students from all over the world. So we've got I would say a good 50% probably from the US and Canada. We've got some from Europe, UK, and then Australia as well. So, and it is true. There are, when you enter, you are a student for life. Absolutely. Because we're upgrading, updating and researching our coaching library. We're constantly putting in some additional workshops for making sure that once you finish the program, you don't stop learning. You can continue learning and growing with as much content as you want. So I love the fact that you brought that up. I'm going to go over you to Marla. Over to you, Marla. Let me try that again. What advice would you give somebody that would like to join this program or considering joining this program?
Well, I would say if you're interested in it, then there's a reason for that. There's something that is resonating with you. For me, it was listening to Catherine on that podcast, just her energy. And then I went and checked out, the website and listened to some of the testimonials on the website. And also, I think I sent a question or two and I got responses back. And I thought, okay, they're responsive. They're not. It's not going into a black hole. And so really, I'm so happy with the program. I mean, really, there's been so much, for those of us who do this, we want to keep growing, and there's so much opportunity for that in this program. And it's been really great. I mean, all the promises that were made, that they're being fulfilled. And so my advice is, if you're feeling drawn to it, of course, do your due diligence, but at the same time, it's resonating with you for a reason.
I love that. It's like there's a calling, right? When there's a calling, that calling, and it's the right time and the right place. I'm going to go to you, Lorena. I feel like a news reporter here. Over to you, Lorena. Are there any specific tips or insights that you would like to share with a prospective student?
I think just be open-minded. I think I don't think I came in with a real idea of what was going to happen or what I was going to do, and I think that it probably wasn't what I thought. I don't know what I thought, but I would say be really open-minded. You can't. I mean, anything that gives you personal growth is fantastic, but I think if you can allow yourself just to be yourself, you will absolutely grow. And I would honestly recommend it, particularly for people. I mean, look, it's open. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, but I think if you want to go on and become a coach, this is probably I think it's the best format. I was lucky enough to do what Marla did and did the 3-day coaching with a psychologist. So I had a psychologist who'd done this coaching program, and she said, this is the best coaching program I've ever done, and I have done many. So, for a psychologist to come and say that, I was like, wow. And I have to say, I spent 3 sessions with her, and it was incredible. So I think, particularly for people too that are in the corporate world who just, just do their thing every day, I think this can be really transformational if you want to be a great leader of people, and really grab hearts and minds. And I think if you show up with genuine care for your people and genuine love for what they do with their lives and how they do it, I think it's amazing. So I would say be open-minded, but come and do it, because you will never look back. It will transform you in ways that you can't really explain. I can't even really articulate the magic that is, but we're very lucky to have you, Catherine, because you are an amazing brain, and just having you in those one-to-one sessions is quite, I don't know how you do it, to be honest, because you're guiding a lot of people, but I just find that magic in those sessions. You can't really articulate what it is until you experience it. So I would recommend anyone who is either listening to this or who's thinking about it, go ahead, and you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, is how I would say.
By the way, I didn't pay Lorena to say that.
That's
Everybody
true.
just thought I'd say that.
Absolutely true.
I think that, obviously for me, I learn as much as what you learn from me. So I share knowledge and I sit in the room with you and I share what I see and witness. And that's all I do. I go in there with an open heart and really be with you in that moment. And I think it's very magical. And I too get so much out of it, and it's true. There's different types of people. There's 3 different avatars in the academy. I see leaders come and do this program to become better leaders because they've got, they're leading a large team. There are some that are coming in for personal and professional growth because you know, we've had quite a few people that said, "Oh, I've been going to coaching and psychologists and psychotherapists, and I've never gone so deep." So there's those that are doing it for personal and professional growth, and then there's those that are doing it because they want to become a coach. They actually want to make a difference. They want to help others. So there are three different types of people, and it's beautiful to watch because. And I love the whole networking piece because people are coming from different parts of the world, different industries, and it's just beautiful to see what takes place. So I really love that. Lora, I'm going to go over to you right now. And I would love to hear from you. Are there any specific tips or insights that you would like to share with our prospective students?
I think as far as the tips or insights, just if you have the opportunity, take the program. I think the reasons that Catherine said, leading, wanting to be a coach, and professional development, in my case, all three of those came into play for me, and it's been very, very rewarding. And yeah, I just can't recommend it enough as far as being transformational. And I think, like Lorena said, I really didn't know what to expect. It did feel more like a calling to come into the program, just thinking of coaching, I'd like to learn more about it, but not realizing how much you'd be coached yourself and change internally. And then how many connections and people that you would meet that you will have some connections for life now. So my tip would be, if you have the opportunity, just dive right in and you'll never regret it.
I want to say thank you so very much, Laura. I want to say thank you to all three of you for coming on the show and sharing your story. I know it's going to resonate with many, and I wanted to do this, and this is, like I said, this is the first time we've ever done this, is because I get the privilege to sit in the rooms with you and watch in awe and walk away in in a trance almost, you know. And I think about the things that you also experience, I experience, and it helps me shift. And I've made lots of shifts in my life in the last couple of years, just watching these, you know, individuals transform. So I want to say thank you. And so if you are listening to this right now, or you're watching this and you are feeling a calling, come and join the family. And you've heard it from the family, and you know what it's all about. And we're here to support. We are here to make a difference. And for us, it is about helping shine light on those dark spots that we don't see ourselves. And it is hard to know some of this stuff until you're put in these situations when you're sitting in the room and you've got this beautiful people around you that are supporting you and helping you conquer the fear or those limiting beliefs or whatever they may be, and watch you shine and grow. So I want to say thank you so very much. Any last words before we wrap up that maybe you want to say before we go?
I just want to say I love the community. I really enjoy some of the bigger groups when we get together, because then I get to meet some of the other people, and everybody is amazing. And there are such smart and driven and compassionate and wonderful people in this community. And that's been a really beautiful part of it for me. So I love that.
Thank you, Marla. Anybody else?
What she said. Absolutely spot on. I think just, yeah, if you can do it, do it. That's what I would say.
Laura, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just saying, just to add to what Marla said, the community, and just that how much of a safe space it is. And no matter what you share, there might be things you're sharing with them that you maybe haven't shared with anybody else, but it always just feels so safe and non-judgmental. And next time you see people, it's like you sort of never even happened. So I love the safety and the support of the community and yourself. Thank you, Catherine.
No, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming on the show. Thank you for your time, your energy. I am very humbled for you coming on the show, and always namaste to all of you. And I love the fact that it is true. You know, sometimes people say to me, I've never said that out loud my whole entire life. It's the first time I've ever said it out loud, and it felt so good. I feel so free. I just love it. So once again, thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning into the show. And I'm sure we're probably going to get lots of questions. So don't be surprised if people reach out to you, Lora, Lorena, and Marla. So thank you once again for coming on the show. And for everybody else, take care. And until the next time, again, namaste.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.